Hello crafters, this is Yana Smakula. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a partial 3D embossing technique that will allow you to create beautiful embossed backgrounds for your cards and leave a portion of the background flat to accommodate a stamped or foiled sentiment. Here's a look at the 3D folders I'll be using. All of these are by Spellbinders, brand new, just released several weeks ago. They are larger size folders. They measure 5.5 by 8.5 inches, making them very versatile in terms of project size they can be used for. They work for regular size cards, 5x7, mini slimline, regular slimline cards, and more. These folders add very beautiful detail to your paper by sculpting it into a work of art. I prefer to emboss these on colored cardstock, and the embossed papers are so beautiful, I just want to keep running my fingers across them to feel that dimension. They give a very pleasant tactile experience. You'll get the most detailed results with the 3D folders when you pre-spray your paper with water before embossing it. I shared this tip in a different video showing Simon Says Stamp 3D embossing folders, and you can apply this trick to these folders as well. Although, for the most part, I have found that I get beautifully detailed embossing without the need to add water. On some papers, I did need to spray the paper lightly to prevent the paper from cracking. When working with these folders, you'll need Spellbinders' new universal plates system. I have a separate video taking a closer look at this system and explaining it in detail. The system is compatible with Spellbinders Platinum and Platinum 6 machines, as well as Sizig's Big Shot. You can also use these folders in your Platinum or Platinum 6 machines, along with the old silver embossing plate from Spellbinders. Some of you might have that plate. I no longer have mine. Or you can also try to use several sheets of cardstock as a shim when embossing with these folders, but that will not give you consistently good results. If you really like these folders, I would recommend you get the universal plate system. Here I have a panel of Spellbinders' new phone booth cardstock in the beveled diamonds embossing folder. To create the partial embossed background, I'm going to place the paper inside the folder partially and align it. The folder has a geometric design, so I want to make sure that the design is spaced equally on both sides. I have about 1/2 inch of my panel sticking from the folder. I don't want to emboss that part, as that's where my sentiment is going to go. If you plan to use a bigger sentiment, you might want to leave more room for it. I've added the folder onto my A base platform and covered it with a D adapter plate. Notice how I placed the D plate. It is not covering the entire folder. Rather, it ends about 1/2 inch away from the edge of the folder. You'll want to place your top adapter plate like this to avoid having a harsh line where your 3D embossing ends. Placing the D plate like this will give you a soft edge where your 3D embossing gradually blends into the non-embossed section of the paper. Notice how the embossing fades on this panel. There isn't a harsh line that separates the embossed section from the flat section of the paper. Now, I got this amazing partial embossing idea from Annie Williams. Annie is a very talented designer, and she is often a guest on the Spellbinders blog, sharing some phenomenal cards. I have a link to Annie's blog in my description below. Be sure to check her out. Now, leaving the portion of the background free from embossing allows us to add a stamped or a foiled sentiment directly onto the background. I opted to use a skinny strip sentiment for this card and for all of my cards, and I just created a hinge using the Spellbinders Best Ever Craft Tape to tape that sentiment plate onto my paper. Now I can add foil and foil the sentiment directly onto the background. I'm not going to show you how I did my foiling, as I've shared foiling, hot foiling in many of my other videos. Now, you can foil a panel that has embossing added to it. I can't say that foiling after dry embossing has any effect on the embossed part. But this only applies to A2 cards. If you are making a bigger card, if you are making a bigger panel, you might want to foil a sentiment first and do your dry embossing afterwards. Here are some of the panels I embossed and foiled. I love the simplicity of this design, and I love how easy it is to make it. With this partially embossed design, you can decorate your card any way you want. I opted to use flowers from an older die set from Spellbinders called I Dance. This set features 3 large floral dies and some leaves. I've die cut the flowers from several pale colors of cardstock. The base color is Hero Art's Peony. The next one is Barely Peach from Spellbinders, and the top layer is Alabaster, also from Spellbinders. The center was die cut from Gold Mirror cardstock. The leaves were cut from Peridot and Rainforest cardstock from Spellbinders. Now, these 2 different flowers were made using another die set. It is a new one called Wreath Builder. And in that set, you have several elements that are designed to create a circular, an oval, or square wreath. And this is what the full set looks like. I simply trimmed parts that I needed to make this floral cluster fuller, and I added those additional flowers to my floral arrangement. Now, I have another tip for you. When adhering these embossed panels to a card base, I first like to adhere 2 scrap panels of cardstock to the back of my embossed panel. The 2 scrap panels add additional stability and they add thickness to the card. Now, they do make the card heavier, so if you plan to mail your project, this is something you'll want to avoid. But if you plan to hand deliver your card, I cannot recommend this enough. It makes your card feel a lot more substantial. So here's a look at the other card examples that I have for you today, featuring the partial 3D embossing technique. I used some Spellbinders gems to embellish my cards, and that's pretty much it. I hope you give this idea a try. Thanks so much for joining me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.